Welcome aboard the podcast of the Stoic Pirate and our quest for the treasure of the good life. Here's your host, Matt Mueller.
Hooah, dear pirates out there. Welcome aboard the ship of the Stoic Pirate and on our quest for the treasure of the good life. My name is Matt and I'm the host of the podcast of the Stoic Pirate. All right, listen up. Today we're not talking about war, we're not talking about politics, we're talking about life, business, leadership, crisis, and how to win not with brute force, but with clarity, discipline, and purpose. I'm going to walk you through 9 tactical principles from the Swiss Armed Forces. Yes, the same principles that guide Swiss soldiers in the field. But here's the kicker. They work just as well in your company, your startup, your family, your personal health goals, or even your finances. These principles are part of the Swiss Armed Forces doctrine, used to test every plan, every mission, every decision. And if you apply them, you'll be sharper, faster, and more focused than 90% of the population. So let's dive in. First, focus on the objective. If you don't know exactly what you're aiming for, you won't hit anything. This principle is about clarity. In the military, every operation must serve one clearly defined and realistic objective. You don't deploy troops just to move them around. You move with purpose. The same goes for civilian life. Whether you're planning a business, getting in shape, or changing careers, ask yourself, what's my mission? Not 10 goals, not 10 objectives, 1. When everyone involved knows what the goal is, and when that goal is actually reachable, you create alignment, you create momentum, you get stuff done. If you chase 2 rabbits, you will catch neither. This is a Russian proverb. So, let's take an example from real life. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was floundering. He cut 70% of the product line and focused on 4 key products. That razor-sharp focus turned Apple from near bankruptcy into the most valuable company in the world. Let's take a bad example. WeWork. WeWork tried to be everything. Office space provider, wellness company, school system, tech innovator. They expanded in every freaking direction without a clear mission. The result? One of the most spectacular business implosions of the last decade. 2. Concentrate your efforts. Power comes from focus, not from doing more, but from doing the right thing at the right time with everything you've got. In combat, you don't attack in all directions. You concentrate your forces. Hit hard where it matters most. In life, this means choosing your battles. Don't try to improve 10 areas at once. Focus your energy where the greatest impact can be made. That might mean doubling down on one skill, one project, or one opportunity. You may have to accept risks or leave gaps elsewhere for a while. But if you want to break through, you focus your fire. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. That's what Michael Porter said. Let's take a good example. The Allied D-Day invasion in 1944 was a masterclass in concentrated force. Instead of spreading their troops across many coastal points, the Allies landed in Normandy with overwhelming power in one zone. That single focused move turned the tide of the whole war. Let's take a bad example. Hitler's biggest strategic error was dividing his forces between the Eastern Front against the Soviets and the Western push against Britain. By trying to win everywhere at once, he ended up losing everything. Principle number 3, keep it simple. Complexity kills. The more complicated your plan, the more fragile it becomes. The more steps, the more confusion. The more confusion, the higher the chance of failure. In the military, simplicity means orders are understood, even under stress, fatigue, or fear. Civilians don't get shot at, but they do get overwhelmed, distracted, and anxious. Make things simple, clear, direct. Whether you're delegating to a team or committing to a habit, simplicity gives you speed, clarity, and confidence. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, Leonardo da Vinci said once. Let's take a good example. IKEA. IKEA revolutionized furnitures by stripping it down. Simple design, flat packaging, clear instructions, and self-service logistics. That simplicity made them a global giant and minimized errors at every step of the customer journey. Bad example. The 2013 rollout of healthcare.gov in the United States was a nightmare. Over 500 million lines of code, more than 50 contractors, no single responsible party, and the site crashed on launch. The lesson: complexity doesn't pay out. It's a risk. Fourth principle: ensure security. This is about stability, about protecting what matters. In military operations, you don't just rush forward, you cover your flanks, protect your supply lines, and guard your base. In life, security means avoiding reckless risks. It means building foundations before you build towers, health insurance, emergency savings, trustworthy people. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Benjamin Franklin. Let's take a good example. Airbus has built its aviation reputation on safety protocols. So medicals, they've made flying statistically safer than walking down the street. Every risk is modeled, every decision audited, because when safety fails, lives are lost. Bad example: Equifax ignored a known software vulnerability for months. When hackers exploited it in 2017, personal data from 147 million people was stolen. Names, social security numbers, credit files, all because someone skipped the update. 5. Use resources wisely. We all have limited resources: time, energy, money, willpower. Don't burn them recklessly. In the army, you don't fight every battle. You fight the ones that matter. You rotate units. You ration ammunition. In life, that means saying no to distractions, conserving energy, and knowing when to go all in and when to rest. Do more with less is a known business mantra. Let's take a good example. In the Six-Day War, Israel's Air Force struck first and fast, disabling the majority of enemy aircraft in just a few hours. It was surgical, efficient, and decisive. A textbook example of doing the most with minimal resources. A bad example? Kodak actually invented the digital camera in 1975, but kept it under wraps to protect their film business. They wasted decades clinging to the past, poured money into the wrong fight, and were left behind as the world went digital. Number 6, maintain unity of action. One team, one mission, one message. This principle is about alignment, whether it's a platoon, a company, or your own inner life. Everything must move in sync. Your team can't be rowing in different directions. Your habits can't undermine your goals. Teamwork makes the dream work, says John C. Maxwell. Let's take a good example. NASA's Apollo program required 400,000 people to work as one. 400,000 people. From janitors to flight engineers, every role was aligned with the mission. Put a man on the moon, and bring him back alive. That unity is what made it possible. Let's talk about a bad example. The infamous Fire Festival was a textbook case of disunity. Marketing said luxury. Logistic said chaos. The organizers were lying to investors, misleading guests, and ignoring suppliers. Result, a beautiful Instagram illusion and a real-world disaster. Seventh principle, stay flexible. The plan is not sacred. The mission is. Conditions change, people change, the terrain shifts. If you're rigid, you break. If you're smart, you adapt fast. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, said famous boxer Mike Tyson. And he's right. Let's take an example. A good example. Netflix started as a DVD mail service, but when the world went digital, they didn't dig in. They evolved. First streaming, then original content. Now they dominate global entertainment. That's flexibility with a vision. Bad example, Blockbuster. Blockbuster laughed at Netflix, refused to change their rental model, declined to buy Netflix for $50 million. $50 million. A decade later, Blockbuster was gone. Refusing to adapt doesn't make you strong. It makes you extinct. Principle number 8. Preserve freedom of action. Don't box yourself in. Keep options open. Always have reserves. Yes, always have reserves. Money reserve, time reserve, physical reserve. That's what you have to have. Always have reserves. In military terms, you don't commit all your troops at once. In life, you don't blow your entire budget or burn all your bridges. In war, the best policy is to take a state intact. To ruin it is inferior to this. That said famous Sun Tzu several thousand years ago. Let's take a good example. Tesla. Tesla builds its own battery technology, writes its own software, and even controls its distribution. That autonomy allows them to innovate faster and pivot harder than competitors tied to suppliers. Let's talk about a bad example. When the Ever Given ship got stuck in the Suez Canal in 2021, global supply chains froze. Why? Because everyone had built a system with zero slack. No alternate routes, no margin, billions lost, all from one oversized ship stuck sideways. 9. Achieve surprise. Surprise wins battles and markets. When you do the unexpected, you confuse your enemies and thrill your supporters. Surprise is the greatest gift which life can grant us. Boris Pasternak. Let's take a good example. Apple perfected the art of surprise with its product launches. No leaks, no previews, just a black screen, a spotlight, and a revolutionary device. That aura of mystery helped turn every release into a global event. Bad example, Yahoo shocked the world not with innovation, but with silence. They sat on news of a massive data breach for over 2 years, losing trust, credibility, and eventually their entire business relevance. So, conclusion. The tactical advantage. These 9 principles aren't just for soldiers. They're for leaders, for builders, for anyone who's serious about shaping their life instead of being shaped by it. Focus, concentrate, simplify, protect, conserve, align, adapt, preserve options, and strike with surprise. Think like a strategist. Move like a warrior. Live like a leader. And here's my call to action. Here's your mission. If you choose to accept it, Pick one of these 9 principles, just one, and apply it today. Clarify your goal, simplify your routine, or set a reserve to buy yourself freedom. Act on it. And if this gave you clarity, share it with someone who's stuck, drifting, or needs a compass. So, my final words, stay sharp, stay focused, stay ready. And as always, be a stoic pirate. Calm in the storm, dangerous when necessary, wise in every decision. Until next time, that's it. Take care. Subscribe to the channel, The Stoic Pirate. Share this episode, like it, and leave a comment. I'm out. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the podcast of The Stoic Pirate. Come back again to our quest for the treasure of the good life.